What's happening, people? I hope you're all well. So in this video, I want to talk about something that seems to be prevalent in male nature, and that is basing identity on social status. Now, this derives from the hunter-gatherer days. So in past times, in order for a male to have validity in the tribe, a male would have to have been seen to be presenting value. Because in those days and times, your next meal was not guaranteed. Your next meal was not guaranteed. And it was a lot harsher in terms of the climate and conditions. So often, in order to achieve survival, you would have to carry out tasks which were more dangerous, such as hunting game or getting heavy loads of water or traveling, across water, across sea. And obviously building houses would have been, building houses, not what we would call houses, but building houses would have been more dangerous. So those were harsher times. And if you weren't seen to be bringing anything to the table, then it wasn't justified for you to be taking from the pot, so to speak. And that means you wouldn't be given food, that means you wouldn't be given water, and ultimately you would be ostracized from the pack. So you would have to have brought value. And with value comes social status. So fast forward to 2023, and it's the same thing expressing itself in a different way. Men need to be bringing value to achieve social status. And with value comes social status. So you got, I don't know, it's based on perception really, because I might not find value in it. People value football or soccer players. So that mean they're valued because they're being compensated. So they're bringing the value there supposedly, and they're being compensated, and therefore they have social status. People like, let's take people from the army, they're seen as bringing value, so they have a level of social status. One more example, a president, say the president of the United States, is seen to be bringing value, therefore they have the social status. So long story short, people who bring value get social status. But one thing I've noticed about male nature is men really, really value themselves, and they associate their identity with their social status. They associate their identity with their social status. And from a nature and biology perspective, I can see why this happens. The problem with that is that means that your whole self-esteem is based upon your perceived value in the eyes of others, the ever-changing opinions of others. So, and the other thing is, it also means that if something changes, and let's face it, a constant in the universe is change. Things are always changing, things never stay the same. So if something changes, then your whole identity that you associate with yourself is going to change. So let's say you lose your job, that's a very basic one. Then are you less of a person now? Should you see yourself as low and less and walk around, being ashamed of yourself? If you're a boxer and you retire and you're no longer at the top of your game, should you see yourself as less? If you're say you're a leader, and say you don't win the next election, should you see yourself as less of a person now because others see you as less? And I don't think a lot of men even realize that they do this. They associate their whole identity with how society perceives them to be. So their whole social status is where they get their identity from. I don't think a lot of men even realize they do this. Men associate their identity a lot of the time with the woman they have on their arm, the car that they drive, the occupation or the job that they have, which I've alluded to already. And overall, even other things like, what's in fashion at the time. Men base their whole identity on these things. And as I already alluded to and I've already stated, from a nature and biology perspective, I can understand why. Because it all goes back to the original, it goes back to the ancient biological hardwiring in human DNA. And not just humans, to be honest with you. Animals do this to a lesser extent as well. And a lot of this is the subconscious drivers. The conscious and the subconscious are two operating software. So you may not even realize that you do this. You have to understand that you're not your job. And it's something really prevalent and something I've really seen. The amount of arrogance, the amount of arrogance that a man can project at times, just based off the fact that he makes more money off another human being. But the thing you need to understand is all of this is it's a belief system of sorts, and nothing's permanent. So the next man wants to act arrogant over the fact that he has a nice car, has a nice woman, but all of this can change, and very rapidly as well. So, not to beat around the bush here, but something very, very prevalent that I've noticed about male nature is that a huge proportion of men associate their whole identity and they get their whole sense of self-worth from their social status. And I don't think a lot of men realize that they do this. I think a lot of men, if they probably don't even think about it. But if they were to lose their job, if their car was to be taken, repossessed, if they have it on finance, or they have to get rid of their car, or they no longer can afford to live in a big house, or their girlfriend leaves them, their wife divorces them, and all of a sudden they feel really bad and they don't understand why, and it's because they have associated their whole identity. So they lose their job or their business, they have to close their business, and they feel lost because they associate their whole identity with their occupation, the women they had, the house they lived in, which is all accumulated and amounts to their social status. And now they feel lost and they feel worthless. So is it wise to base your whole identity on what you do and your social status? Well, here's the thing. From a nature and biology perspective, it actually makes sense. And this is when you really look into the inner workings and intricate details of this universe. You start to understand that Mother Nature plays tricks on us. Mother Nature kind of, I'm not going to say redirects, but Mother Nature definitely puts us in a position where we're doing things almost to Mother Nature's prerogative. But when you actually look at it from a logical perspective, you would then start to say, well, this isn't really cool. But then the universe is extremely complicated. But in terms of a survival aspect, I can understand why you would associate your social status, your identity of a social status. You see, the universe knows not everyone is going to be intelligent. So it puts most people on an autopilot state, because then if they're not intelligent, at least they can follow the subconscious hints and cues and intelligence of the universe. But So from a mother nature standpoint, from a survival biological standpoint, I can understand why people associate their identity with they associate their identity with their social status. But in terms of a more logical standpoint, or from a self-preservation standpoint, I would say, you know, tread carefully. While it is good to look at what you do and look at your social status, because your social status is going to have an impact on your interactions, relations, and your survival in your contemporary environment, I would also tread carefully, because one thing that's constant in this universe is change. Things are forever changing. So is your self-esteem going to be at the whim of whatever is going on at the time? So you should always, you know, be conscious of self and not necessarily base your whole identity on your social status, because your social status is and isn't in your control. There are always going to be things that happen that are not in your control. So that's my conclusion. You know, from a mother nature standpoint, I get it. From a survival standpoint, I get it. But then also from a self-preservation point of view, your peace of mind, which is important, and your inner peace, I wouldn't be associating your whole identity with your social status and what others think about you and your job and what women you're with, because that's something that, you know, it is a bit shallow in my opinion, and it definitely puts you in a vulnerable state and at the whim of, you know, the ever-changing circumstances which are not in your control for the large part. So those are my thoughts. What do you think? Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, hit the notification bell so you get a notification when I make a new video, and I'll see you on the next video.